Welcome to our posts. Today we will see stories of am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for telling my wife's friends I make more money than her? I, 25M, am married to my wife, Sasha, 28F. She comes from a pretty wealthy background while I decidedly do not. My dad left before I was born and my mum died when I was 11. I've mostly gotten over it, as much as one can, get over something like that. However, I'm still sensitive on any so-called jokes on that. I graduated with the highest distinction and went straight into investment banking. I met my wife when I was 23, and fresh into it, but after 3 years I earned pretty well. My wife is a lawyer. Now I love my wife and she loves me, obviously, but her family hates me. Like from the depths of their souls, hates me. I've been called a gold digger, a lowlife and a few more vague insults on my table manners. I went to a party with her the other day, one of those fancy schmancy things where everyone drinks champagne and complains about this, that and the other, talking about oh we spent so much money on renovations, gasp. And I got the usual mild comments from wife's family and close friends on where my wife picked me up from. Lacey, I don't think, knew about my family history before. We were talking about dads, don't ask me why, and I got a question on what my dad did. I said I didn't know, never met the guy. Lacey made this kind of exaggerated gasp and went, oh, well we all know why you're with her, my wife, then don't we? I acted all confused and she got flustered, and just kept going with, well, you know. My wife tried to move the conversation along, but by this point I wasn't letting it go. I kept pushing, and pushing until Lacey finally said, well you two don't exactly have the same finances, do you? And then responded with, you're right. I make quite some more. Lacey by this point was too embarrassed to keep going. I'd kind of ruined the vibe, but the night continued. This isn't the kind of event you walk away from. We went home, which was when crap genuinely went down. She told me it was crazy of me to keep pushing on that point and turn one comment into one of the most embarrassing moments of her life, and now everyone in her circle must think she's some kind of failure to earn so much less than her husband, and I'd ruined everything. But it's not like I lied. I'm just tired of being treated like crap in her circle. My wife is upset though, and I do care about her, so I need to know, am I the a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole. First of all, your wife failed to stop this crap and just expected you to take it. She didn't speak up and say, hey that's out of line, where you two could have just walked away. She wanted you to overlook being looked down upon, because she felt looked down upon. She called that the most embarrassing moments of her life, because she feels like a failure since you make more, which is wild considering what she expected you to endure. Honestly, you're not the a-hole, but your wife is. If this is her circle, she should have stopped that Lacey immediately. People think that you're a gold digger because your wife lets them think about it. She's more worried about what people would think about her earnings than people talking bad about you. I grew up in a wealthy area, and the wealthiest guy of all used to drive a beater station wagon and wore flannel shirts everywhere. At my parents' parties, men would come up to him and brag about how wealthy they were and then patronizingly ask what he did. He'd say, I work in a factory. That was technically true, except he worked in a lot of factories that he owned. He was pretty hands-on. Other people who knew were laughing at the braggart, who never got the joke. I have told that story a couple of times at apt moments. Or sometimes I say, I was taught it's rude to brag or ask about money. It usually doesn't work. Those people have their facts wrong, and you corrected the facts. They are a-hole, who are embarrassed that they stepped on a rake. You are not the a-hole. Why has your wife been putting up with this? She should have long ago told her family the situation, and shut their crap down fast. Is she as insecure as her brother? Next story. Am I the a-hole for sending a price sheet to my family after not being invited to my half-sister's wedding? Let's get straight to the point. I, 22F, am a full-time baker for a small business and college student. I moved back up to my home state in September of 2023, mostly to get away from my toxic family and for better opportunities. Also to add why this is even an issue in the first place, my brother Jay, 25M, and I are the black sheep of the family, mostly due to the fact we were born and mostly raised outside of marriage. The teasing and neglect only grew worse after our mother, 44F, married Jerkfish, 54M, and had our half-siblings, 20F, 17M, 16M, and 11M. Now, here's the dilemma. My half-sister, who we will call Jojo, 20F, is getting married to Rit, 22M, in July. My mom and grandma asked that I make them a wedding cake, which I would have happily agreed to if I was invited to the wedding. The thing is, they wanted me to make a cake fit for 200 people, get a hotel near them. They hate that I'm not a Christian, so they think I'll bring evil into their house, work for 3 days, and get a flight there and back. I'd have to pay for all of it. They think it'd be a nice gift to my sister. I just laughed and sent them my price sheet. They flipped out. I was bombarded with texts from them about how selfish I am, how I am truly vile, how I am toxic for expecting my family to pay for my cake when they could just go to Walmart to get one, etc. Jojo even messaged me on Discord a week after I had sent the price sheet and asked why I would charge her when I made my best friend a free wedding cake. I simply told her to F off, as not only was I invited to her wedding, but I was the MOH, and in a way it was returning the favor for being a genuinely good friend and helping me out when I was going through a lot. Jay and his wife had said I'm not wrong for it and they'd do the same thing, and my boyfriend is on my side. However, a few people in my life are saying I should have just said a simple no instead of sending the sheet, and that my response to my sister was harsh. So, I need an outside perspective, hopefully other bakers on here too. Am I the a-hole? Update 1. I found out the exact reason for my brother's family and I not getting invited. 3 months after my sister and her soon-to-be husband got engaged, my grandmother requested my sister not invite the sinners. It was more along the lines of, if you don't invite your siblings you'll get a hefty portion of my will. Don't really know what the proper term for that is, but I digress. So, my sister is catering to the needs of my racist grandmother over her own sisters. I also found out another reason, out of the many, why my brother and I were black sheep in the family. So, you see, my mother is whiter than paper. My brother and I's biological father is Lakota/Sioux Native American. We were told he just left us, because that's how the savages act. When in reality, our dad died from a terminal respiratory illness that he had since he was a toddler. Some cis type of deal? Not too sure. The hatred from them only grew further when my brother married a black woman and had my 3 nieces together. 4th on the way. I told Jojo how hurt I was by picking money over family, but I kinda expected it. She tried to offer me $50 to make the cake she wanted and I just declined. I shared this post with my brother and he is rolling while reading the comments. Also, to the people who DM'd me to tell me that they hope I go out of business, my boss says hi by the way, and that I deserved getting abused as child because I'm a snot now. F off. Smiley face. Stay awesome and brutal as ever, Reddit. Thank you for all of the support. Top comments. So family should get a free cake but not be invited to a wedding? Make it make sense. Maybe since they're so religious you could send them links to Christian bakers. Therefore the cake would be blessed and not be made from the hands of a heathen. Not the a-hole. OP replies. I've recommended some good bakeries in their city that have good prices and match their values. Still though, it's really stupid how they expected that of me. Not the a-hole, they want you to fly to the wedding, make a full wedding cake for 200 people, and you aren't even invited to the wedding? My mom and grandma asked that I make them a wedding cake, which I would have happily agreed to if I was invited to the wedding. The thing is, they wanted me to make a cake fit for 200 people, get a hotel near them. They hate that I'm not a Christian, so they think I'll bring evil into their house, work for 3 days, and get a flight there and back. I'd have to pay for all of it. They think it'd be a nice gift to my sister. I just laughed and sent them my price sheet. They flipped out. I was bombarded with texts from them about how selfish I am, how I am truly vile, how I am toxic for expecting my family to pay for my cake when they could just go to Walmart to get one, etc. Walmart cake for the wedding it is, I guess. Not the a-hole. They wanted a free cake when they treat you like crap. A cake for 200 people. Expected you to pay for flights, a hotel, and ingredients. Yeah, sending the price sheet seems about right for their attitude towards you. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend it's not my problem she married a useless man? I, 32F, am a single mother of 2 kids, 6M and 5MF. I am a single mother by choice, my kids are donor conceived. I am lucky enough to have a good job, French teacher in a private school, and a paid-off house, parents' life insurance and inheritance. Before I had either of my kids, I made sure to have a year's living expenses saved, then I would take a sabbatical to recover from birth, as well as bond with my kids. While on sabbatical, I still tutor some kids for some extra income. My friend, 34F, just had a baby 2 months ago. She is the breadwinner in her household, and her husband has been unemployed since he was laid off during COVID. It was great to be pregnant at the same time, as well as having a friend with a newborn. But it has turned sour. She has been saying how jealous she is of me being able to take off a whole year from work, how she would have loved to not worry about losing their home, how she doesn't even have a couple $100s in her savings account, let alone a whole year's worth of living expenses. I usually ignore it, or brush it off, because I kind of can understand the stress she is under. Well, starting about 10 days ago, she started hinting at not being able to afford daycare, and any mention of her husband taking care of their kid is brushed off. Then she started remarking on how much free time I must have, which I deflected by saying, truthfully, that being a single mom to a baby and a small kid left me no free time actually. Then last night she came out with it, and asked if I could do her a favor and watch her kid while she's at work. I was firm, but polite, when I said that I couldn't, that I am not capable of watching 2 kids under 6 months. She started almost begging me, saying she can't afford daycare, and if she is not back at work, she will lose her job, and they will end up homeless. I again brought up her husband, and she said that he was not good with kids, and isn't capable of taking care of her kid. I kept saying no, she kept pushing, until it escalated to her calling me heartless, and me telling her that it's not my problem she chose to have a kid with a useless man. Now she blocked me. I am feeling very guilty about what I said, and feeling like an a-hole. Top comments. Not the a-hole. I think there were no a-holes here up to the point of her pressing you to do this favor, which she shouldn't have asked for in the first place. You're exactly right that it's not your problem that she is in this situation, and while I do think a heavy dose of empathy is important to your friendship, her having a husband who isn't employed and cannot contribute to the child care she needs is a problem that she needs to solve. It is annoying and impractical for her to think the answer here is for you to provide child care. It is dismissive of the fact that you are busy already, and you only have about 7 months remaining of the time you've allowed yourself to be on hiatus, so it's a short-term solution. It's too bad that she's letting her situation cloud her judgment. You are not heartless, and that was an unfair response for her to have had, and inappropriate behavior all throughout this interaction. Unless the husband is bedbound or otherwise physically incapable of work or childcare, he needs to pull his finger out of his arse and step up to parent his own child. And if she isn't going to make him, she needs to leave him and claim for child support. Yes, if he's not going to get a job, this won't do much, but at least she'll have one less mouth to feed. Could you have said it more kindly? Maybe, but she should have kept pushing when you said no. You are not the a-hole, Opie. Opie replies. Unless he has an invisible disability, I think he is very much capable of taking care of their kid. All she would say when I asked about him raising his own kid, is that he is not good with kids, doesn't know how to take care of infants, and is just not an option for childcare. You may have expressed it in a slightly harsh way, but you're not wrong. Her husband hasn't worked for several years, they had a baby together, and yet he can't actually do anything useful to help care for the baby. She has, indeed, married a completely useless man. The norm is, should be, that if one parent works, the other parent takes primary care of the kids. If both parents work, hopefully they make enough to afford daycare. Her crappy husband is not your problem. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Tell her when she's lucky enough to have her parents die, maybe she can have a paid-for house too. Extreme sarcasm here. She is no longer your friend and you need to set boundaries and exit this friendship. Opie replies. This is actually a point I brought up before. I told her many times that I would rather have my parents alive, them meeting their grandkids, than to have a paid-off home. She would say sorry, that's not how I meant it, then would go on to bring it up again. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel our posts.